Hi Todd, how are you?
Good, how are you, Maddie?
I'm good.
Good.
Hi, how are you? I'm good.
Calling the meeting to order. All right, students speak out. Every student will have 3 minutes to speak out. If you'd like to, go ahead and state your name, your residency, and your major, please. Are there any students here to speak out? Seeing none. Announcements. Are there any announcements today? All right.
So Zach had our first semesterly funding workshop today from 2 to 3 in Walter 235. Our final one and our second one will be tomorrow from 2 to 3 in Schoonover 145. If you or anyone that you know that's an org leader is looking to do semesterly funding or looking to travel next semester, please tell them to go tomorrow. It is mandatory if you want to practice semesterly funding. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you. Senator Miller.
Hi everyone. So myself and a member of the judicial panel recently created a Twitter for the judicial panel that will have all of the updates and announcements regarding elections. I put it in the Slack, but I just want to reiterate how important it is that you all follow it. I think the Twitter handle is like OU Judicial Panel. If you just follow and like retweet some of the stuff, that would be awesome because we have like no followers and it's really important stuff that we're tweeting out. So if you could do that, I would really appreciate it. Thanks.
I think it's Ohio we do judicial panel, by the way. It's mimicking that percent.
It's not that because I know that it was too long. So I'll put it in the Slack again.
Thank you. Senator Miller on this side.
Just a quick, if you have family in the Northeast, check to make sure they're okay with retirable discount car access, so check with your family if you have family in the Northeast.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Moving forward. Presentations. We have Pete Trinicasi from the Executive Director of Housing and Residence Life.
How's everyone doing? Good. Good? Speaking of the Northeast, I just got back from Philadelphia yesterday. Being a student of Jenny Hall Jones at the same conference I was, and there was a moment where we had to make that decision of, if I stay and go to the Ohio Social, I'm probably not going to make Student Senate the next night. And I was like, I'm going to make my Student Senate meeting, so I'm going to go. And Tuesday I flew out, and this morning I woke up, all the flights are canceled. I believe Jenny Hall Jones is stuck in a tarmac for something like 4 hours today. But she is back in Athens, I believe, around pretty soon. They're still on their way back. But so the Northeast is absolutely terrible at the moment. It's snow. But I'm happy to be here tonight. So I'm going to, when Landon invited me to come, I gave you a couple of things to talk about. One of the things I know that Student Senate has been interested in, and we certainly are as a department, is improving our residence hall system, making it the best it possibly can be, not just today, but for the future. So the title of tonight, what I want to present on, is improving our residence halls for both today and tomorrow. Quick overview, and I will try to keep this brief. I have a number of slides and there's a lot more pictures than there are probably content, just to represent. I can't take everybody on a tour at the moment, so I thought the best way to do that is maybe show some picture representations. But we have 40 residence halls at the moment. For next year, we're thinking we'll have about 1,700 students living on campus, 42 full-time staff, 291 RAs. We're responsible for just over 2 million square feet of gross square foot of space. And the one thing to keep in mind about Housing Residence Life is we're a true auxiliary. So when students pay their money for housing, it actually goes just to housing expenses. Now, we pay a number of other things indirectly for the university and other things. We don't receive money from things like, there's no state funding that comes to us. We don't receive any kind of tuition bonuses or anything along that line. So everything has to balance on our books to pay for housing expenses. So just something that you may or may not have known before me being here tonight. Big overview of how Housing Residence Life is organized. South Green is currently the biggest. Think about how our beds lay out. Right now, the majority of what we offer are doubles. About 14% singles, triples and quads kind of make up the balance of that from there. But at the moment, we have just a little over 8,000 beds total available on campus. When you think about who lives with us, we have about 90% first and second year students. And so that's an important thing to keep in mind, that we know that that's who we traditionally serve. And whenever we get ready for any particular year to think about third and fourth year students, usually around the fall, we determine how many spaces we think we're going to have. This last year was a down year in terms of first year enrollment, so we knew that we had plenty of space. So we got out right away to say, hey, juniors and seniors, if you'd like to join us, we'd love to have you. We'll make that decision usually every fall to make sure that folks are aware when we do and do not have space available. From a financial perspective, as we lay out as a department, I kind of try to break it down as without putting up the giant, chart and everything else. Kind of the most simplest way to understand our budget is housing revenue comes in, pays for our operating expenses, and some things are paid in capital expenses out of that fiscal year's budget. And then whatever hits the bottom line, every last dollar goes back into capital expenses, because we do have a number of deferred maintenance issues and also things that we want to improve on behalf of students. As I mentioned earlier when we started, we're a true auxiliary, so we don't receive things like tuition, state appropriations. We don't participate in the 100-year bond program, nor do we typically get major gifts. We do have some alums that are lovely enough to give us some money for our foundation, but in no way is it typical to find a residence hall that receives several $1 million in support of capital expenses. So the big thing I want to talk about today is our deferred maintenance and kind of our approach. And one of the things that Landon asked is, how can Student Senate be helpful for the work that we're trying to do? And one thing that comes to mind for me is that we have been aggressive in tackling deferred maintenance. Every year I've been here, we've done a little bit more in the summertime to try to take on as much as we can to improve the residence hall system for both current students and future students. So if you agree with our approach, any way to kind of let that support be known is fantastic, because at the end of the day, even though we're responsible for all of our own revenues, there's a lot of pressure at the moment, competing for what gets attention, to be frank. And we believe that a lot of our residence halls do need attention. And part of that is that, when we look at our deferred maintenance backlog, the university has somewhere in the neighborhood of $550 million. Of that, Housing Residence Life has $223 billion of it. So we are aggressively tackling that number and going after it. But if we slow down in our pacing, I'm afraid that this will start to go the opposite way. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. If you're paying attention to the national news, things like tariffs, if they come to be a possibility, which they're currently being talked about, will have a major impact on construction costs. Right now, we're anticipating about a 5% escalation each year. So for every year you take a project and wait, it's another 5% of where that project was the following year to do it. It had been around 3% is what we were assuming, and now we've moved our assumptions up because construction is actually going quite well in the nation at the moment. But this kind of breaks down the gross square footage, number of buildings, and the dollar sign per gross square foot. And I lay out the back south because this is what remains of our back south. And one of the things that was decided in the 2011 Housing Development Plan was that we would build new replacement beds to replace the back south. Not necessarily because the deferred maintenance it's high, but also the front floor is high. The difference between these buildings and the front floor is that strategic decisions were made for a number of years that would not allow them to be around another 50 years without a major investment. So things like when we did the roofs here, instead of Ludovici clay tile, this is a asphalt shingle roof. And so asphalt shingle roof lasts about 30 years versus a 75-year roof. Windows, instead of having 50-year windows, we made decisions to have, say, 20 or 30-year windows. And so that time is coming soon to make a decision about how we deal with that, and we've taken 6 away. These buildings are still totally safe, and we have still a number of years to work through these buildings. But the reality is, what we know is that the configurations themselves don't lend themselves as a shell to renovations the same way some of the other buildings do. So like in a building like Jefferson, which I'll talk briefly about tonight, that building was able to be fully gutted, we went in and renovated it, and it looks completely different than when it started. The outside looks the same and has a historic nature, but inside, it's very contemporary. And so these buildings with their small size, they also are very inefficient. So they don't have the same ability. You can actually probably get the same amount of energy use out of a 300-bed building as you would from 100, 180 beds, about what the size of each of these buildings are. So we know that from a sustainability perspective, there are more sustainable options for us. The challenge, of course, is you end up throwing away the building in the process. But the reality is that a lot of this would have to be redone with some of that. So with deferred maintenance, we often talk about this. You hear this term get thrown around a lot on campus, and I wanted to bring some pictures of what this looks like. It's always alarming to me when I have a director of capital facilities planning, Brent Buckley, a partner of mine and a colleague, and we work together on this. And Brent came to my office, he says, hey, we got to do the problem with the infrastructure. How much is it going to cost? 2, 3 million? 7.5 million. Come on, there's no way. And then he takes me downstairs and shows me some of these lovely things that are, the building itself is wonderful. It's one of our most popular buildings. The rooms themselves have all been redone, but down in the basement where you can't see, this is what's making this building run. So in 2019, our plan is to actually go in and redo the infrastructure to make sure that it'll keep working. Now they maintain this, they keep everything kind of up and working, but the reality is even to get to this, we're not even sure of the way in which we'll have to get to it. We'll probably need to potentially dig out the parking lot next to the building, to dig underground to pull these out and rebuild. Because when they put buildings, a lot of times they build the building around the infrastructure. This piece of machinery is so big that oftentimes it has to come out in parts. So that's just one example of a deferred maintenance project that we'll be tackling. The other thing we do with our money, a lot of times we plan for the unexpected. Sometimes things just are tracking along great, and then you get into the summer and somebody says, hey, I think there's a problem with the outside of Sargent Hall. And we go inside the room, we see literally a spalling of that's the right term, of the interior, where what was happening was the light was hitting this brick for so many years that it actually started to pull away from the building. And so the entire front of Sargent had to be taken off, pulled off. We initially, for the first year when we did this, we actually just did a temporary patch, but then we went in last summer and we actually did the full repair. So every brick had to be taken off the front and reapplied, and we went inside and fixed the inside of the room as well. James Hall is a similar issue going on, and this summer we'll be tackling it. Again, all structurally safe and sound, but from a longevity perspective, if we don't tackle these issues, it will affect the longevity of the building. So significant investments for things that often, when students come back, they go, does the brick look different? I kind of think, no, it doesn't look any different. And meanwhile, it may have been $1 million worth of work just to make it look slightly different. But at the end of the day, these things really matter to the buildings. And then I think it was about a year ago, we had some urgent front floor work that needed to be done from an electrical perspective. We had a ruptured electrical line, had to go in the summer, redo all the electrical feeds to make sure that the front floor would stay operational. This summer we're tackling a lot of different things. Bryan we're pretty excited about. We're going to go into Bryan Hall and redo the restrooms there, and I'll show you some examples of how we're tackling these. All of our restroom projects have gotten feedback from students. That's how we build these things. We don't live in them, so at the end of the day, we're going to make sure our students are excited about living there. Domestic hot water in East Green, sometimes the balancing has been off. Folks might get cold water or hot water. There's a loop that goes through East Green, and we're taking ourselves off of that loop. We'll go to individual-based boilers, which will enable students to have more on-demand water and won't rely on the loop to come through to get that, which will give us a little bit more flexibility. This is one of those that always is less exciting too, because you'll see the scaffolding go up. The roofs do need attention. They look fine from the ground, but they are at the end of their useful life. They're starting to leak. So each one of those is about $1.4 million to go up and redo the roof. A lot of our Ludovici tile roofs can be redone. They take the tiles off, lay them out, relay all those tiles back on the roof. So it's very sustainable, but when we have to actually do the labor, it's quite involved. Washington Hall is going to go offline for an entire year next year, which with some of the flex in the system. We were able to do that this year. And Washington will receive HVAC preparation so that when chilled water becomes available, we can just pipe in and be able to turn that on. We will be redoing the bathrooms. We'll be taking on the fire alarm system, upgrading it, and it's a pretty significant renovation for that. And then some other, I mentioned James Hall and Pickering will be receiving some restrooms as well. Some successes to kind of burn through with you, give you some ideas, some of the photos, things that have gone really well. Phase 1 was completed in 2015. This is a $110 million project, one of the largest projects, actually the largest project, I believe, since the 1970s that happened at Ohio University. 4 residence halls were built from it, 912 beds came from it. We completed the project on time and under the budget we set, and it just recently was given its official LEED Silver. We build to that standard whenever we can and try to work within it, and there are quite a few things involved in achieving that, but we're proud of this project. There'll be some releases coming out soon that shows that we officially have that now. Jefferson Hall was rehabilitated and completed in 2017, and I'll make the distinction between 2 terms. I'll say renovation, and I'll say rehabilitation. Rehabilitation more or less means we go in and we've got basically everything and redo all of the inside. Challenge with that is when you do a full gut renovation, it's $30 million. So as I was talking just a little bit ago about some of the projects we're taking on, we're able to make a huge impact to Bryan Hall for about $2.5 million. This won't be as much from a student perspective, see, but Pickering for $1 million. We're trying to spread ourselves out more instead of just focusing on a building and getting everything completely tackled. Because the reality is that we want to impact as many students as possible. We added a new mail center, first floor East End community space. If you've not been over there yet at Jefferson, you've got to check it out. It's a cool space to go study, grab a bite to eat, come on over to our side, and find a place to hang. We achieved LEED Silver on this project. We know we have it. It's just a matter now of going through the process. And as you saw, 2015 was when we knew we got it, but it takes almost 2 years to get your certificate and all your approvals. So this targeted renovation approach I'm talking about is what we're taking on right now. We're going after James Hall. We did this 2 years ago. And so total investment at James was here. This was the lobby before. This is what we're able to do just with the lobby alone. If you've not been in James, this is lovely. One of my first things I said is like, I'm not saying it's going to get broken. I'm just saying it might get broken. Can't get these things at Lowe's. You need to have more of these. So we have an extra set sitting around. Don't break the one we have. But we do have an extra set so that in the event something does happen, it can be replaced. This was the most amazing transformation, I thought, in terms of what we're able to do over there. Lovely fan over here in the sinks. I'm sure we're really well appreciated. But today, this is more of a look at how the facility is. And when we started renovating Jefferson in particular, this look was decided by students. We started laying out different pictures. We said, what do you like? And so this was the top thing they liked, was this type of bathroom. And then we said, well, okay, we'll start building it like that. And students, one student that spoke out, it was most salient to me. She said, no, not like it, like exactly like it. Down to the tile, like, make it look like this. We're like, oh, okay, that's pretty serious. So I think we did it justice. There's a lot of mosaic in the photo. Instead of having, as you see here, the bowls are just kind of hanging out in the way, there's a big difference between having it all kind of laid out with the countertop, and then some space to kind of put your shower bucket, or whatever you might need to do. What we heard was they don't mind being in community restrooms if they look nice like that. And what we know about engagement with the students and how they like to, and how you get to meet other people is that sometimes community happens in the bathroom. No, it's not weird. It's when you brush your teeth. So that's what we know. Cambridge Hall, there's another one. So a little shy of $1 million per year. This is the before, and this is the after. To be fair, I don't think this photo does justice to how different that lobby was. It really has transformed. So if you've not been to GAM, you can check out that, and you can really compare it pretty much to any East Screen lobby that has been renovated, and you'll see the major differences there that happen. Boyd, as you can see, still some of the same elements we pulled. Boyd had a very similar look with the kind of the stalls out. And each bathroom has a little bit of a different feature because of the way in which the space has to work. Our goal is to fit as many fixtures in as reasonable without making it too small. So that leads us to where we are today with Phase 2 housing. So I showed you a picture of the back cell and kind of where that was. We do anticipate taking down more buildings, and we'd like to build additional new beds. So for Phase 2, we're working with a team of Mackey Mitchell Architects and MGT to retest 2011 plan. A lot has changed. IO's a guarantee. Construction escalation has become a bigger thing. Students' tastes and preferences may have changed. So we need to kind of think through all those different things. Our project focus is related primarily to the feasibility of the construction that would go. And the site we're looking at the moment falls right here. And it would, and these buildings here would come down to at least here if we were able to build this facility. So what we did was start looking at research. Like, what's out there? What are folks doing at the moment? So here, Chronicle of Higher Education is one of the higher ed online magazines. And one of the things that I found really fascinating in August was the University of Delaware was talking about some of the things that they know about. And it falls in line with a lot of the research that I've done and our firm has done, or partnering with. So thinking about, you know, this whole idea that, you know, we really need facilities that lend themselves to making friends. And, you know, things that came from this article, to summarize it, is proximity is important. Suites sometimes are not good for socialization, particularly with first-year students, and we have moved more suites to upper class students, and we found that that's been helpful. And this is an interesting one. If you want students to engage, make the Wi-Fi signal the biggest in the lounge. I was like, how does it feel? So I think we may end up doing that in one of the true lounges. And then students are unfortunately arriving to campus a little more socially isolated. Now, at OU, we have some differences in that. And I'll break them down for you. Who all has lived on campus at least a year? Okay. So if you've lived a full year, you've taken what's called the EDI or the Sky Factor Survey. It's a paper and pencil-based test. We do it at the end of every spring. And I will say that Ohio University currently is this is my 5th program that I've been fortunate to work for. We have some of the best scores I've ever seen. And this is from our students. We don't like rate by some crazy formula. It's all feedback based on students. We compare ourselves naturally. And so when we look at these factors, these are things that we ask students, like, you know, how has residence halls impacted your view of sustainability? We land in the top 5% amongst all schools in that category. This one I'm really proud of, and something that really is probably a leading force of what we're thinking about with new builds is personal interaction. Top 6.5%. We often hear students talk about how friendly this campus is, how easy it is to meet people if you want to. And I think there was something intentionally done in a positive way about the way our facilities lay out, whether it be building to building or inside of the building, to allow for interactions to happen. And that's something that we cannot lose in any new building we construct. Sense of community, top 6.5%. Diverse interactions. And this one, the question goes something along the lines of living in the residence halls has helped me interact and engage with people that look or think differently than myself. And we find ourselves in a little better than the top 10% of that particular area. And in our student staff, really low, top 11%. And there, I could have went through, we're basically almost in the top 4 of almost every category when it comes to this survey. The one that we rank probably the lowest in is our facilities at the moment. And then we met with we had some focus groups last year. We met with students, and these were the things that were said to us. Friendships are built through living on campus. Residence halls connect students. Preserve the historic nature, traditional feel. And I'm going to stop on that for a second because sometimes I think that those of us that don't live on campus can sometimes get the feel like, well, students are probably wanting what's contemporary and all those other things. And we were given a good wake up to that when some of the students kind of espoused this notion of, hey, we came here because of this law. So don't actually mess with it too much. Because if you do that, then some of the things I fell in love with will be different. And so even though there might be this feel like you all may want something differently, again, asking the feedback is critical. And I was glad to hear that voice come through. Studying social space value, outdoor space highly desirable. We've done quite a bit on South so far. Students want more temperature control. And it's something that we're working actively toward. Steve Wood and I have had conversations about temperature. For those that have experienced up and downs of Ohio weather, you could be snowing today. Tomorrow it might be 80 degrees. We just don't know. The challenge becomes with our systems, they're basically, the chilled water is available or it's not, and the heat is available or it's not. And the conversion process is about a 2-week process. And when you see a forecast that says, next week it's going to be in the 30s, you end up staying in whatever mode you're in. And it makes it really uncomfortable. And so what I have asked for is what would be the cost of us adding more chilled water availability, because there's more maintenance required to do it in colder months. Because right now we shut down about November, chilled water goes off, and it comes back around end of March, early April, depending on how the season goes. There's an entire period where you really cannot draw cooling, even if you're in one of our newer facilities that has been fully renovated or is branded like a new building. It doesn't. Some students have actually told us, like, I'm calling for cooling, they won't come. Well, it is not. It's actually bringing in more hot. You don't want to do that. So that's something that we are certainly looking at, but we have to balance what the price is on that particular thing. Community kitchen is something we've been adding whenever we can. And the one thing that's been really something we pay attention to is cost sensitivity. And what we've looked at is that when we ask the question, what would you like us to build next? By and large, we hear suite. Well, what we heard from our consultants was you should really consider this idea of pod. And so this is what a pod style looks like. And so the idea being that to me, it's more like a hybrid of combination of suite and traditional together. But the big thing that was big for us was that it's 10 to 12% less expensive to build a pod than it is a suite, which the hope is we can pass that savings on our students in terms of rates. So we were fortunate enough to go head down to Texas Tech. You may recognize this individual here. Who's joined us on Bobcat 1, and we headed down there to take a look. And was every lounge we went to, there was somebody in there pretty much? I mean, it was fantastic. Like, these lounges looked smaller than I would probably have chosen to build, but I think the intimate factor of that is what really kind of made it work. And so students were out of the rooms in these lounges. We were just walking through the hallway. It was mid-afternoon, which in most rental halls you don't find that to be the case. So we really like this idea, and so I think it blends a little bit of both getting some more privacy, because the bathroom, this is the little lounge, these are double rooms here, the bathroom's right over here. But you have this common area hallway, and this kind of repeats itself out there amongst several different things. But it gives you that blend of, like, you have the social interaction, but yet a little bit more privacy in the restrooms, which is certainly desirable. So with that, I end my talking, and I'll answer any questions you might have.
Hannah.
I was just wondering with the lead, what does that mean? I don't know if you
Sure.
said that at the beginning.
Yeah, oh, that's a good question. So LEED is probably I'm not sure if it's the international standard, but certainly it's a national standard when it comes to building construction methods that say that this is a sustainable project. Things like how much waste is produced on a project, it's a renovation, how much we actually reuse. And then, there's a number of things that come in from an educational perspective, how the utilities run. Is it an improvement compared to most utilities? And so all those things kind of get factored into a point system, and then they will certify a building. So you'll see it out there. If you type in LEED certification, LEED, it'll provide a little bit better explanation than I did. But it's what most universities will go after. We are weighing with that, to be honest. I mean, for us as entrusted as stewards of your money, we ask that question sometimes to say, should we keep going after that? Should we just build to the standard? It's an institutional decision, but at the end of the day, it doesn't come free. So you pay folks to come in and they will actually certify your building, but you don't get that certificate. It's just like, hey, where you go, where you go. There's a cost factor involved.
So is it solely building it, or is it also how sustainable it is?
It can be both. Yeah, there's multiple ways to get points, and it shifts from time to time. The LEED point system changed a little bit ago. There are people that that's what their sole job is they will advise you on how to best follow the LEED standard. Other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Maddie. I'm an ARD in Biddle,
Hi.
and I worked in Yale last year, and we had a lot of issues with fire alarms.
Yes.
I know that is still a problem in Pickering this year as well, so I just was curious if you are taking any steps to address issues with fire alarms.
Great question, Maddie. I appreciate that. GAM was not the same as Pickering.
Yes.
Let's start there. Every building has its own character and issue. This year, for whatever reason, vaping seems to be the most popular thing. I don't know. Again, it's kind of, and not only just vaping, but vaping sometimes in common areas. So that's what started happening in Pickering. So we took a number of measures in Pickering to combat that. I'm proud to say currently we've had 0 common area fire alarms, and we've had 1 total. All semesters so far in Pickering. Last semester it was something in the upper 40s. I mean, it was bad. I mean, we had extra rounds. But here's the thing. I mean, I'll be the first to admit that we, as a department, reserve the right to relocate somebody for anything that's part of the contract. We need to do that. So we put folks on notice that if you're vaping in the building and we catch you, we will relocate you based on that. And somebody tested us within 8 hours of that. And as I was talking to Pickering residents, giving them kind of the deal of what's going on, there were folks with pillows moving in the background. I was like, I couldn't set this up there. But I mean, that kind of approach is unfortunately what it took there. And so we will escalate often to try to figure out if it's a behavior or it's the system. We think a little bit of both is going on there. But in the end, the final part of the fall, it was really about student behavior we had to do that. So, but I appreciate it. Now, we're looking at ways to be better and also to change, look at technologies that can work on the sensitivity. One thing we have done That's been huge. Years ago, popcorn would be always the way in which the fire alarm went off. There's a safety sensor that environmental health and safety puts on the air. As long as it's kept in place, it will actually detect that it's starting to smoke up, and it will turn off the microwave and then go along. Unfortunately, we found that sometimes that's been disabled or has been plugged in the wrong way. And so one thing that we've added to our protocol is to actually send someone from EHS to visit those particular spaces to make sure that they understand exactly how it's supposed to be installed. Because what we don't want is that it become a regular thing, and it seems like that's been picked up here and there. But yeah, we don't like nuisance alarms. We try to reduce them as best we can. Thank you. Other questions? Yeah.
Were you looking at the pod style dorms for this phase 2, or were you looking at that more long term?
Phase 2, we think would be where we want to go. Oh no, go ahead.
Because going from a mod style my freshman year to a traditional style my sophomore year was jarring as far as like social interaction went.
Sure.
It went away. And so I've been curious about why mods were going away, and I get that it's inefficient or whatever, so thanks for answering that. But I would like to put pods.
Well, and I will say this too. I kind of myself refer to pod as almost a mod 2.0. Like it's the next level. So part of this has been tough for me because, well, I'm not currently a alum. I am a PhD student, so I will eventually make it. I'm a pod category. I recognize the historic legacy of the facilities, and there isn't any building now. And so for me, it was important to say, if we're going to do away with it, we need to somehow pay some homage to it. And so when I heard about the pod kind of configuration, just seemed like that was a really good way to do it. And also, if we can save money at the same time, that's even better. Other questions?
I'm from Art and Car. I was wondering in terms of rates. I know that living on side 5 in newly renovated buildings is a couple $100 more expensive per semester versus like traditional styles in older buildings. I was wondering if in the future there's going to be an attempt to maintain some housing that will be cheaper relative to these things, because I think like over the course of 2 years if you live in side 5 versus front 4, I think it's almost $60,000 cost.
Sure. Cost is a really important thing for us to always be looking at. So, it's one of those things that, if I was able to do everything that we need to do at a much lower rate, I would do it tomorrow, to be frank, because I know that rate sensitivity is there. So it's hard to commit to that answer because I just don't know. Part of it's understanding what our liabilities are. Because as I said, we're a ship on our own bottom, so whatever we have to pay for is what we need to earn. So part of what I get to do is to really look at the finances and draw out over not just a 1-year period, but a 5-year and then a 10-year period. How much revenue I need to have to pay for all the anticipated expenses? And I want to make sure that then there's enough money to hit the bottom line to do the capital work that's being done as well. We have been capped at 3.5%, and that's been only to those on the guarantee coming in. So, if someone would stay at 4 years, they would be able to hold that for all 4 years. So I think that gives some flexibility, but at the end of the day, we are going to also look at our rates. We have to ask ourselves the question of what time is a building not truly renovated anymore? Is it 10 years? Is it 12? We're kind of getting at that moment with some of them work. And then what happens if a building, does it become when they have air conditioning? So we have to kind of take a look at our rates and figure out what makes the most sense and what's fair. But there was talk at one point that said, hey, why don't we just charge everybody the same? And it was like, no, let's not do that. You need to differentiate on something. So we try to do amenity a little bit so that we don't have folks that say, wait a minute, they're living in side 5 and paying the same as me, I'm living over whatever building maybe they don't prefer. So I appreciate the question. It's something we're really paying attention to. Yeah, go ahead.
Along the lines of what you just mentioned, obviously this phase 2 isn't going to just sprout up on the ground immediately.
Actually, you plant some seeds at this
That
time.
would be amazing. But with the back south, so you guys have plans to give at least some of the interior spaces a facelift? I lived in Hoover my freshman year, and if I would visit friends in the new dorms then, I would be kind of upset.
Sure, and actually this is getting worse for us the more we do. I'll give an example. When I first got here 5 years ago, there wasn't as much done. And it was just beginning to be pretty aggressive while we would take on. And so we had students actually say things, like East Green was golden. You were on East Green and back then there was no complaint. We had a lot of students saying like, I don't want to live in this downtrodden building of Tip. And like, Tip? Oh, Tip's never had a complaint. But as we continue to catch up, we will create more buildings that we have a light shine on. So I think that backs up. We've definitely taken on painting. We've repaired anything that needs to be done. Anytime something goes out, sometimes folks get the wrong idea, like, oh, if the elevator goes down, you're just going to leave it. Well, if it's the last week of a building and it's going to get torn down, then that might be a consideration. But generally speaking, that's never the case. Even if it's a couple months off, we're going to fix whatever needs to get fixed. We do have a few buildings like Hoover Union and Ren, they have a longer life depending on how demolitions get planned. And if that's the case, we will actually be putting some investment money that will be beyond just some Band-Aid that make sure that those are closer to what others are expecting them. So, but it's a great question. It's something that, you know, we're always trying to, like, that's part of the pressure point, like, we need to really make a decision on phase 2, because the longer we kind of put off deciding when and how to go about it, the longer we're holding on to the building that we don't want to put money into. So you put in 50-year money on a building that only has 5 years left, that's not a good use of your money. And so we want to be sensitive to that. Great question.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else has any other questions for Pete? You can go ahead and email Landon and I, or you can send it along, or you can just bother Pete for sure. Right?
Anytime. You can tweet at me too. I'm at Housing Director. Be happy to help you out. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Now, okay, next we have our student trustees, Brooke Morrow and Faith Voinovich.
Awesome. So good evening, guys. Thanks for having us here. So obviously this is a little different from our usual routine because usually how it goes is we'll come here typically after board meetings to kind of debrief and get your guys' thoughts on everything. And what Faith and I and JP Tina have kind of been brainstorming is if once we receive the board agenda, the board book essentially, if we had a week to read over that because they're typically pretty thick, if we came in here the Wednesday before the board meeting to kind of get your guys' thoughts on some of the more hotter issues that directly impact students. We've kind of been toying around with this idea. We're running it through a few people in the administration, getting everybody's thoughts. And we wanted to come here tonight to kind of get your guys' thoughts, amongst about a few other things, about if we started doing that as a routine practice. So does anybody here have any specific thoughts on that, in support or against that, maybe anything in between?
It's a great idea. I think, like, as a student, I've been here 4 years, and I'm not entirely sure what happens before a trustee meeting. And it's just my involvement in student senate that's let me understand that a little further, and it's really great to take that out to my constituents. So I think this is absolutely fantastic. Yeah. You did do that.
Okay. We'll definitely carry that forward. And I think you had it. Okay. Great.
At those meetings like before, could you also debrief about what happened?
Oh, sure.
Like a month before.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So this would not replace us debriefing with you guys post-board meetings. That's a really good point. So it would be adding in a before and keeping the after as well. That's a really good point.
So one of the things we notice when we go into board meetings a lot of times is because we get the opportunity to sit in on some of the decision-making meetings, we don't have some of the same questions that general student body might have. So we be able to come to Student Senate and hear from all of you and hear from any of your constituents that have certain questions. It'd be helpful for us so we actually know what you want to ask the board meeting and can do that and really represent the students a little bit better.
So I'll ask you, does anybody have any thoughts opposing this type of idea? Or anything in between? Okay. And I just want to be very clear that we're not saying that this is absolutely going to be implemented. This is something that we're discussing implementing. So that's why we're here now. So hopefully maybe, not necessarily in August because it's typically the first week, but maybe for the October board meetings, we might be here beforehand. And we wanted to discuss that with you guys beforehand.
An idea, like maybe in between, is like know that sometimes we just have a lot of presentations already, and so a good in between would maybe you sending those issues to staff and then offer them your office hours and you help me individually.
Sure.
Just because I know that these meetings sometimes get really packed with speakers.
Yeah.
And there might be like less engagement than might be one-on-one.
Definitely. And I'm sure with hotter topics, it can turn into a debate and things like that. Nobody wants to be here for 6 hours, so that's a good point.
Yeah, so our next board meeting is coming up just, do you have another comment? Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned this isn't a guarantee, what's the potential
just going through with anything with the board of trustees, there needs to be like a full procedural approval process to go through with anything. So while we can represent what students have to say and most people are on board with it, there are certain limitations that we might run into as we're talking through all the constituents at like the administrative level.
But you foresee this being okay? Making it through all this?
From everyone that we've talked to, everyone is on board with this. As Faith just said though, the issue that we would run into is protocol or like some weird something somewhere. So we're kind of going through procedural SOP and hopefully we'll be here in October. Well, not me, but Faith and whomever is my replacement. So hopefully everybody, that's a great point. Everybody that we've talked to thinks this is a great idea. The issue that we'll run into is if there's some sort of procedural something or another that would get in the way of this.
Question. Is it like in your procedures that you must come speak to the student senate after?
See, like even that is like what we're investigating because it's, from my understanding, it's been a precedent and we're still going through and trying to find anything written down regarding us having to report to you guys and that open line of communication. So that's I mean, we don't even know that yet. We're still going through all the documents and stuff because obviously we've been here for a while and it's hard to sort through what's precedent and what's actually procedure.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I have another question too.
Mm-hmm.
When does the agenda for these meetings like come out? And are they only like who are they accessible to?
So, I don't know if we have like a standard amount of days. It kind of depends on the nature of all of the issues involved. So for example, we don't even have access to the board book for March yet. So that's part of the thing is we're not even sure. We have an idea. So housing, for example, is one of the hot topics for this upcoming March meeting, but we don't know what's in our board book yet.
Another aspect with the feasibility of actually being able to come in and talk about detailed issues with all of you is that generally these board books are over 500 pages long. So just in terms of like fitting in 500 plus pages of reading between our schedules, if we do get it like just the week before, trying to make sure that we're able to pull out kind of what the larger issues are so that we can talk even more generally about things. And then if there are questions that have to do with specifics, maybe being able to share, like Senator Miller shared about with the staff and then opening up our office hours if there are more specific things.
But would that be accessible to anyone that wanted to look at that 500 pages?
The board book?
Yeah.
I'll have to check on this. I don't necessarily know if they're open to the public or not, and I only say that because a lot of times with these issues, we need to talk through them, so they don't necessarily want them released before because then they're published everywhere. They do know that they'll, like for example, housing. We know that housing is going to be on our agenda, echoing what this presentation was just about. We know that's on our agenda, but we don't necessarily know the details of it. So we can come in here and say, here's some details about housing that we're talking about, for example, opening up 400 more beds near Nelson on South Green. What are your guys' thoughts on that? What do you want to see with that? What don't you like about your housing currently? What issues are you experiencing? But we can't always necessarily discuss specifics. So again, going through the procedural, I know that's such an annoying answer because it's annoying for us too, but we're trying to figure that out. So we're trying to keep transparency and an open line of communication with you guys about what we know, and this is what we know right now, fortunately and unfortunately. Yeah, absolutely, we appreciate it. Any other thoughts on that?
And then going forward to the March meeting, we're going to try and kind of have an informal session right now. If anyone does have any questions or thoughts that they want to be brought up at the board meeting, can't guarantee that everything is going to get brought up because obviously it's very tight structure for those meetings and they go really long, just like I'm sure all of your meetings go really long sometimes. But if there's any initial ideas of things that you'd like to be brought up or that we can be thinking about from the student perspective.
Sorry, what other hot topics are there right now other than like housing just to kind of spark that?
So from my perspective, over the past 2 years, a really big current event that's been going on is deferred maintenance because we've been building on these new buildings and then housing maintenance is kind of like, well, what about deferred maintenance? And things keep getting pushed above other deferred maintenances. So it's like this big kerfuffle of deferred maintenance. So for example, with Sargent, that wasn't on our agenda or our list really of priorities on deferred maintenance, and we had to move it up due to the threat posed to students because the masonry was falling apart. So when it comes to housing, I think the biggest topic about that would be, I know that we're, due to private donations, going to be renovating, I don't know the official name, but the baseball field. I don't know the official title for it. That's one. I had mentioned the potential 400 bed housing popping up on South Green as part of our initiative to start renovating housing instead of necessarily building new ones. So things like that. That's kind of a half answer. Is that okay?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I guess I was just thinking of other towns other than housing.
Other than housing?
That, yeah.
Yeah.
So the reason that we even know that housing is going to be coming up on this next agenda is it actually got pushed from our last meeting because we ran over on time. So people were waiting to do presentations on housing. Now we know and we've seen a little bit more about what's going on, so we can talk and speak to that today. But with other things, we're waiting as much as everyone else is on getting this agenda to figure out exactly what we're talking about.
I mean, something else that's going on with our university, obviously, is our budgeting and our financial situation. I'm hesitant to bring that up. Obviously, that impacts students indirectly and directly. It's a little bit harder to talk about, though, because it is such a broad topic. Yes. Yeah. Oh, I mean, what's up?
So, like, obviously, we have two search meetings going on, or two that I know of, supply administrators. Do you guys get to talk about that at all with the trustees?
No, so the way that those are built is typically the search committee takes care of those up until they're brought to campus, and depending on the nature of the situation, the board of trustees doesn't always get to meet with them. So with, with the new vice president of university advancement, he got the open forum with all of you guys, and he was interacting with President Nellis, but the board of trustees didn't come on campus to specifically meet with the candidates, like they did with the president. Good question.
I don't necessarily have something that you would need to bring up, but if there's conversation on counseling and psych service investments, or any mention of the mental health bill that was passed a couple weeks ago, if you could talk about that next time you come to the meeting.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. Any other initiatives or thoughts on anything that you want to be represented for the board meeting? Great. So like we said, we're trying to keep an open line of transparency with you guys. We're telling you what we know in full transparency. So hopefully when we come back to debrief post-March board meeting, we can have some more of these answers for you guys about what we've uncovered about SOP and procedural standards and things like that, and any updates that we've discussed here.
Another thing is you can always obviously contact Landon or Nicole, but if you have any questions for us more directly, I think that our contact information is posted, that we can send out in minutes, otherwise we're easily accessible online. And office hours whenever you want to stop in, if you want to say hi or talk about what you really liked about our university or what you really not liked about our university, we're here to welcome those.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have a question or comment? Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off or... Okay, sorry, I thought I saw your hand, my bad.
Jordan, do you have your...
Oh.
Has there been a discussion regarding students with autism at these board meetings, or do you foresee that?
Current board meetings, no. I'm not sure about upcoming agendas. Again, we don't even know really what's in our board book for the March meeting, but I think that's a really interesting topic. I know it's been brought up in the past. Autism specifically hasn't been a focus though. It's been students with disabilities or disability issues. Is that something you want us to bring up in terms of something we want to hear about potentially?
There was a checklist passed in January that is now causing some concern among faculty.
Do you know the name or something I can look up specifically to reference?
You want it?
I can email you the bill.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. Will the chief of staff now call roll, please?
President Obama.
President Roxy.
Vice President Schneider.
Yeah,
Roxy.
down. Okay. Gotcha.
There you go. Treasurer Ward. Commissioner Timko.
Present.
Senator Seco. Senator Hipwell. Senator Graber. Senator Owens. Senator Rises. Senator Torno. Senator DeVille. Senator Holbrook. Senator Madison. Senator Cananline. Senator Cananline. Commissioner Evans. Senator Ashley. Senator Jones. Commissioner Romwell. Commissioner Malone.
Present.
Commissioner Puku. Senator Hartman. Senator Ring. Senator Smith. Commissioner Chinook.
Proxy, sir.
Senator Ayers. Senator Knapp. Commissioner Miller. Senator Hashivani. Senator Zimmerman.
Present.
Senator Soto Diaz. Commissioner Freight. Senator Myrick. Senator Baker. Senator Kemper. Senator Hardy. Commissioner Fillinger. Commissioner Lundy Morris. Senator Sloat. Senator Jones. Senator Plotz. Senator Holcamp. Senator Jackson. Commissioner Harder. Senator Toomey. Senator Heliopoulos. Senator Cromwell. Senator Miller.
Present.
Senator Deering.
Present.
Commissioner Burke.
Present.
Senator Hurd. Senator Thomas. Senator Kiefer. Commissioner Clare. Senator Williams. Sorry. Yeah. Williams. That's what I thought. My own name. And report Veronica. Or we have one. Yeah, I know.
Okay, we're gonna move along. All right, are there any additions to the agenda?
Oh, I have one addition to the agenda. I'll move to add Senate Bill 1718-19, a bill in support of United Healthcare Insurance for students, to the front of the agenda before old business.
All those in favor of adding Senate Bill 1718-19 to the agenda, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? All right. Okay.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? And approved. Okay, so for debate rules, we're gonna set these. I wanted to set them during addition to the agenda, but we just kept moving. So, for appointments, we'll use 3 minutes to debate. For budgets, we'll use 5 minutes to debate. For bills and resolutions, 10 minutes to debate, and then 15 minutes for constitutional changes. Sound good? Okay, next part is every sponsor will have 3 minutes to speak. Every person debating will have 1 minute to speak, and every direct response will be 30 seconds. Do we have to vote on that? All right, cool. Old business. Or move, okay, Bill. All right, Senate Bill 1718-19. A bit, we have to do that in here. A bill in support.
Second.
If anyone, thank you. Sorry, I really do need glasses. All right. Primary sponsor, Landon Lama, and I reserve the balance of land this time because he did not give me. Secondary sponsor is Matt Ramon. Thank you. Sorry.
First, I apologize. My business is very casual. In terms of the bill, Landon and I met last week, and everything that I don't know a lot about healthcare. Nobody in this room does. There's a healthcare administrator who does a lot about healthcare.
Can you speak up, sir? I'm like, can you turn it to everybody?
I don't know a whole lot about healthcare. I know some. I would say I know more than the average person on the street, but from everything that I saw on it, it looked really good to me. It looked like the plan with United Healthcare was our best option. I would have any questions directed toward our health insurance administrator. She is our expert, but I was
Is there any debate? Commissioner Burke.
The reason why this is so fast is the university deciding something like this week or next week?
We're in the middle of our last semester work week with end, so we
4 years ago when we did the bid, we only got back 3 responses. And 2 of those companies had dropped completely out of the student health insurance, game. So United Healthcare was one of the only ones that had been consistent in being able to supply the health insurance policy.
And Senator Keeney?
So there's been talks for GSS being able to, especially international, being able to opt out of the student opportunity. I'm wondering if there's any talks, have there been any talks about undergrad students being able to opt out of it too? And if, for example, like myself, I'm not international, but I still live in the States. I have insurance that covers 100%, but I still have to offer to this one by the university. Is there any way to opt out anytime soon?
Yes, all semester. Another concern that we have with the 4 bids that we got back, we're going to start implementing a waiver audit verification process, meaning that hard waiver that we have in place with health insurance. When you go, if you have say you're on your parents' insurance, or you already have insurance, you don't need the student insurance. You go online, you complete that waiver, enter in the information on your insurance card, it's submit. Nobody is verifying those right now to verify that that's an actual active policy. So someone could falsify that information, which is what we've seen a couple of times in the past. One student is in a lot of, not trouble with the university, but trouble financially, and with their medical bills. We're one of the last institutions in Ohio that does not verify anything, so we are going to start that. We are outsourcing that to a third party. I'm the only one that does student health insurance for all 12 campuses, so definitely no way that I can handle 20,000 waivers. So we want that to be a function of whoever our student health insurance carrier is. To me, it's important that that third party be impartial, and not be the insurance company, because you don't want to say United Healthcare is going to deny your waiver application and then make you enroll in their policy, for conflict of interest. So when I wrote the bid, I specifically stated that we are requesting an impartial third-party company to manage that waiver audit process. United Healthcare is the only one that responded with a third party. Everybody else, all the other bids, they're all going to manage waiver audits themselves. So to me, that's not real fair. So going with United Healthcare ensures that we'll have that third party to process those. It will be online. Another thing we've been working really, really hard on is to have equal opportunity for domestic and international students to apply for a waiver. So this fall will be the first time that international students can apply for a waiver online. Previously, you can apply as an international student, but it's a paper form that gets handed into ISFS, and right now there's nobody to manage that. So by having a company take this on for us, it's taking the burden off of the director of ISFS too. So that's opening up a lot of their time to be served to students, international students. We've already had some WebEx demonstrations with this company. PCI services. United Healthcare only uses this company for their waivers. So they're not owned by United Healthcare. It's just somebody that they've done business with for over 20 years, so they've done this before. I couldn't really move forward with the waiver audit verification process until we get this bid finalized and we move forward, find out who our carrier is, and then now we can go to those. So we plan to have an entire marketing campaign around the waiver verification audit process. It's going to be exciting.
Move to vote.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Raise your hand, please. Okay. All those opposed? Abstentions? All right, and the bill passes. composition section of the Student Senate Constitution. Whereas the Ohio University, all right, primary sponsor, Zach Rice. Not here. Okay, cool. Commissioner Clear.
Hi everyone, so we're bringing our Constitution amendments back. So we took a lot of really great feedback from the open forums and from individuals reaching out to us to tell us what they want to change. So the biggest part of this, and you all have enough time to read it, I hope, we combined the composition and the operations section because a lot of people said it didn't make sense why they were different. So you'll see all of the information, all the operations information that's different from the composition section will be included in this article from now on. I do have two friendly amendments that I let you know about in Slack earlier today. So Commissioner Burke brought to our attention yesterday that using the word minority student or minority communities in 4.2.2 wasn't really inclusive of all of what Senate encompasses. So we kind of agreed to say marginalized communities. So that's a friendly amendment that I have. The second friendly amendment that I have is to add 4.3.3. There shall be a commission to distribute funds to registered student organizations. This commission shall have the power to distribute funds for the purpose of funding registered student organizations. The senators within this commission shall be elected by a plurality in a Senate election. This is just outlining the power of SAC. So this is currently in our Constitution, and in order for the Board of Trustees to recognize us and to establish that we do have this power, it needs to be in the Constitution. It kind of slipped under our radar while we were editing and whatnot, so that's an essential friendly amendment. But other than that, thank you so much to all of you for all of your really great feedback. I think that this constitutional amendment is very robust, and it's very reflective on what we want the student body to think of when they think of Senate. So I reserve that.
Thank you. Do all the sponsors agree to those friendly amendments?
Motion to friendly amendment. Commissioner Clear's point.
Do all the sponsors agree to those friendly amendments? Okay. All those in favor of adding those friendly amendments to the resolution, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Neat. All right. Commissioner Reinwood.
Yeah, I would quote Ditto Romlo to Clear. She said this resolution is extremely important in the efficiency of Senate. The unofficial cabinet has been a great resource to collaborate with my fellow commissioners. I reserve the balance of my time.
Treasurer Woods.
Ditto. Woods. I reserve the balance of my time.
Yes. Vice President Schneider. I reserve the balance of my time. And President, I don't know how this works. President Lama, I reserve the balance of my time as well. But I don't need, you said I didn't need a proxy. So I have like all the meetings. I'm double. All right, debate. Harper.
Yeah, so I went to a couple of the forums working meetings and I'm really happy with how receptive the committee and everyone was working on this process was to recommendations and input that I had. And I appreciate that. I do think the structure is better now than it was before, but I still feel like after looking through these and the Constitution that we have right now, that the differences, in my view, just aren't substantial enough. They aren't writing a new Constitution. In my view, I mean, that's just, I don't think there's really anything that can be changed here to sort of change that point. That's just sort of how I think about it. I don't know if anyone else has really had a chance to go through and look at them. I really appreciate all the work that they've done. And I'm sure they would make the argument that it is necessary and something different, but I still feel like the changes are not enough. That there's not a lot of need to draft the Constitution. Also, that some of the stuff that's in these articles, maybe like the line between the R and P and the Constitution seems more blurry now than it did before, and the Constitution maybe doesn't need this level of detail, in my view. I'm curious how long you think about that.
Yeah.
So I totally understand Senator Smith's point, I think when the committee was meeting to discuss rewriting a lot of the Constitution, it was to make it more understanding and a resource for students, so that students know what we do. Even though this is a longer edition than what we have currently, it's a lot more robust, and it explains like what different roles do. It makes it more constitutional. It makes it more permanent, because in reality, like
Alright, really quick, I'm gonna appoint Walter as pro temp because I wasn't supposed to like talk about this in advance, so here you go, Walter.
You'll have to all I do not know all of your names, but that's why the panel is the panel and not the Senate.
Alright. Oh, shoot. Go ahead, Walter.
Any other points of discussion? Yeah, so, going off what Parker said, my big concern, and I brought this up in the open forum, but well, going back to it for a second. Thank you to the committee for all the hard work that you did. It's really appreciated. You guys have done an amazing job in this whole process. I just think that I have a issues. The section right here, 2.6 and 2.7 regarding leadership team and the executive staff, I don't feel like either of these things are necessary to be in our Constitution. I feel like there are rules and procedures. I feel like the staff is the thing that you appoint, whether it be either administrations or any administration wants them. So like between last year, there's been plenty of staff positions that we created this year. Senate's down the road might add or subtract staff, such as the director of communications consulting with the art director. For this, in the Constitution, that would be adding a new position. I just feel like.
Can I directly respond?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so in 2.6 where it talks about, sorry, so in 2.6 where it talks about exec staff, it actually does not lay out all of the positions for executive staff. It kind of leaves that under the chief of staff and executive's discretion. And then I know you didn't entirely get to your point about leadership team, but I think the point behind this is to just make sure it's in our Constitution, so it's something we continue to do instead of rules and procedures, which can be more easily changed. But I would invite anybody else from the committee to speak on that as well.
I would ditto with Judge Schneider, whatever word you want to ditto. So, as a member of leadership team, I think it's incredibly important theoretically that it's one of the main times that all the director, chief, the three executives, and our advisor all speak to each other. And if we don't have that in the Constitution, if one administration wants to come around and say, we don't want to talk to each other about anything that's going on, I think that's really poor for a leadership team, for executives, the five main heads of all the Senate to do. And so I would say that it is definitely a needed thing to go in the Constitution to ensure that this leadership is carried out through the years.
I think that when we talk about the Constitution, we talk about how it's the skeleton of the structure of Senate. So like think of Constitution as the skeleton, and then the rules and procedures is like the rest of the body. So when I think of the skeleton, the current Constitution is kind of just like the skull. Like it's a part of the skeleton, but it's not the full thing. So I think that in this composition section especially, it outlines what each part of Senate is supposed to do and what like its purpose is, and then the rules and procedures will then say the specifics of such. And when we were writing this.
Yeah, 30 seconds for direct response. Okay, you have 20 seconds.
Okay, so when we were talking about this, we kept the language ambiguous, so there aren't like specific outlined things. It's just like the structure of the cabinet, the structure of the executive team, and then what senators do. So I think keep that in mind. This is still a skeleton of Senate.
You're good.
Any other points?
For 2.71, this is just to respond to what everybody said. There is the chief of staff and then there's the communications. Drawn out.
That they add the line in there. It says, and any member of Senate that the executive deemed necessary to serve on the leadership team. Trying to make this fair bones as possible because candidates in the RNP that still gives the executive the power to invite the most senior member of Senate, the chief of staff, the communications director, and the PR director, or other members of the staff. It gives the power to the executive.
I just kind of want to say that I agree with what Senator Smith was saying, that it does kind of seem like this is too much to go into the Constitution. And while I hear what Commissioner Clear is saying about I shouldn't see it being a full skeleton, I just kind of feel like some of these things should be left up to the discretion of each executive that come in to decide. So I guess I just don't really have anything new to add, just voice my question.
Mr. Drago.
What are you? Madam Acting President.
Yeah, I think that's what I am. Sorry, I should have let that in my head. I think, well, at first it seems like a lot more writing. It seems like it doesn't really give the next executive officers that much leeway or anything. If you read all the lines, it does say it's kind of up to the next executive officer's discretion. So while it is more, it's kind of creating this system that then the next executive officers can either build on or take down a little bit, just up to their discretion. It's just making sure that that system is in place generally. Everything's done.
And as a current executive, I can tell you that there's nothing in here that we added that new execs would be forced to do, except that they would just, it's something that, everything that's in here is stuff that we've been doing since I've been here for the past 2 or 3 years, leadership team, all this stuff, and it's just kind of giving it a new meaning, making it more official. And so nothing that is ludicrous that they would be new execs would be like, why do we have to do this? It's just making sure that things that should already have to be happening are happening. Just that was my time.
First question is, when there's a change made to the RFP, isn't there supposed to be No, the reason I ask is I agree that saying, like, going to this extent in detail, thank you to the committee so much for doing so. Like, wow. But I don't think it's places in the Constitution. I think it's places in the RFP. In fact, sorry, Commissioner was about it kind of like if the 5 executive down is our meeting, but if we decide rather than want to do this like next week in the RFP, it needs a 2/3 majority vote to be changed. I would like to think that Senate next year would be conscious enough to realize that if the executives want to change something like that, that they would stop that too. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So keeping such extensive things, as much as they are great, that's not what the Constitution is for. You know what I mean? And especially if a student wants to come and read this, why should a student have to read about leadership?
Any other discussion points? Do we have a motion to vote?
Vote friendly amendments.
All those in favor, raise your hand. Can you all put your hands up high, please? Yeah, put your hands up real high. Okay. 1, 2. Lord. All those opposed? All those who wish to abstain? So the motion fails because you need a 2/3 majority of seated senators, that is everyone who holds a position regardless of if they are here today or not, to pass constitutional changes.
Point of information, how much is that though?
60. So seated senators is, we have 54 seated, so we need 36 people to vote aye to approve. Our
clarification, if we do table all of these, I think that that's what some people are whispering about. All of these have already been sent to the Board of Trustees, and they're just waiting for our say if we approve them or not. And so even if we table them, we'll have to have a meeting in order to vote again before the next meeting.
Mark? So pretty much, I basically, if they don't go, if we don't vote on them tonight, I believe they won't.
So if these are voted on tonight, there will be a campus-wide election tomorrow from 7 to 7. And that will give them the feedback the trustees need to be able to vote on this. If it's not voted on at that point in time, aka today, the election will have to be conglomerated into the student senate actual election that's in April, and then those issues will be voted on by the Board of Trustees at their June or July meeting, June I believe, rather than at their March meeting, just to clarify.
So the reason why we've been pushing it more is so that we can have the student body vote on it before actual student senate elections. Otherwise, we're going to have lower voter turnout for those elections. The students are going to be a little bit more confused. Yeah. I don't know really either. Go ahead.
It kind of seems like the body doesn't want as many changes or any at all to this constitution. Can't speak for anyone other than myself. So I don't know. But that you guys were talking about like it happening in April. I don't know if this body even wants changes, maybe at all. So I just want that.
We'll take. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Walter.
So we're just going to move on for the time being. We can have a discussion afterwards, but just for the purpose of getting through business, because I don't want to be here, and I don't think any of us really do. It is a Wednesday night and midterm week. So, moving on, Senate Resolution 1718-140, a resolution to create an appointments and inauguration section of the Student Senate Constitution. Thank you.
Okay.
Primary sponsor, Senator Zach Rises. Okay, Commissioner Haley Clear.
Yeah, so this is another one that was heavily edited after our open forums. A lot of people said that they wanted to see a few differences in it. So the biggest thing I would say from this one is that commissioners are also, the commissioners, the chief of staff, and the director of communications, and the chief justice, I believe, are all appointed by a 2/3 majority. So currently, if you were a commissioner that was appointed at the end of last year, you were never sworn in. Therefore, there's like no constitutional repercussions for us doing the wrong thing. So like, we don't have to get impeached, and like that's just kind of a slip up in the current system because we were never sworn in. So if you look at it that way, this is necessary to kind of outline that commissioners do get approved by the majority of the body, just to hold us accountable as well. So I urge you to vote in favor of this, and I reserve that for time.
So if I may, for just 1 second, correct one little point there. Commissioners can be impeached, but they can also just be removed on the whim of the executive officers because they serve their punishment. So, you can be impeached. If you go and like attack someone, you're probably going to be impeached.
But as someone who was never sworn in, I could argue that I didn't know that what I was doing was wrong.
You could also argue if you haven't been sworn in that no one's votes have been legitimate, and therefore everything that's done has been pointless this year.
So pass this so that we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
So, next, sorry, Commissioner Rambo.
Oh, ditto Ramlo, I guess.
I
don't know, I thought we say the last name after.
Yeah, we'll discuss that because.
Okay, ditto clear.
That's not okay.
Alright, thank you for clarification.
I completely ditto. I also think that, I also agree, sorry, I can't keep my thoughts together tonight. Basically, the commissioners and the chief of staff and direct communications are some of the biggest leaders, if not the whole cabinet of Senate, and after spring elections, they're just kind of appointed without anyone's approval. It's just a free executive that can pretty much do whatever they want. so I think it's really important that we add that they need to be approved by the body and also inaugurated with swearing in like the rest of all members. I reserve the balance of my time.
Vice President Schneider.
I don't get to speak on myself. I get to speak during Lynn's thing, so I reserve the balance of my time.
Okay, President Obama.
Okay, here I am. So I think that this is really important. It's not adding anything that would be like fun or extra. This is something that is actually necessary for commissioners. Commissioners are extremely important for our body, and so it makes sense that they would actually have to take an oath and take more responsibility. I reserve the balance of my time.
Okay, moving on to discussion. Are there any points for discussion? Commissioner Burns.
To the senator, is there part of the Constitution that says that senators have to be appointed as, or not appointed, because they're elected, like the senators who are elected, and like we have that swearing in process. Is that in our Constitution?
Currently, no, it's in the rules and procedures.
So
With
why is
this amendment, it would be.
I thought that this is just about commissioners, the chief of staff, director.
Yeah, this is, it was in something that I read today. I'm sorry.
In section 1, that is about the 13 commissioners and the 2 chief of staff and the director of communications, because the other ones are elected and that is down under oath of office.
But it's in the Constitution.
It will be if this is passed. It's not currently. That's why we're asking.
So the argument that we are not held accountable by our actions because we haven't taken an oath of office, I think is a little kind of a rolling rock fallacy in my opinion. That like saying because we didn't have this oath of office, we're not held to our office. I believe that by being a member of this organization, you should be held accountable. That's why we have the judicial. Even though you don't put your hand on the Constitution and say, I firmly believe in it, you know, you still have to follow the rules. You still have the office. You still have the integrity to uphold. I reserve the balance of my time.
Yes, but without actually stating that you're swearing in and that you will abide by following these rules, if there's something that goes wrong theoretically, there's no rule saying that if you don't abide by these rules, you're out, or you are up for impeachment, and that is the problem. That so far it's not been a thing, but if it ever becomes to be a problem, it needs to have some kind of backing in the rules and procedures and in the Constitution.
Senator Schneider.
I would also like to add that this was suggested at open forums, and so I think to say that this is frivolous, when that didn't come up in an open forum, but this did, I don't know, I'm just a little confused, so I reserve that.
Any other points? I don't know your last name, Parker.
So, I'm trying to recall which things I'm suggesting but I want to make a point that I gave suggestions on this, that if these things pass, that is one I would like to see, but I still feel the same way as I did about the police one, that these seem like things that should be in rules and procedures to me, but if they're not, then why aren't those almost convincing or larger doctrine? If they are in the rules and procedures now, and I guess not, they aren't for commissioners specifically, then it seems like it's easy, we can just add that to the rules and procedures. There's already a public swearing for senators, but I don't know, this just seems a little extra, excessive in terms of
Also in response to what I heard,
So I see your point about when you interviewed, it's kind of like a job, and then you got the email and everything. But for a job, you'd also like sign a contract, a lot of forms that say, here are the rules of this company, and here's what you're going to abide to. So this is somewhat similar to that. It's just an oath, though. You're just signing on to do exactly what the same sort of oath that the senators take, that the executives take. So it is similar to a job in that we're adding this thing. I reserve the balance of my time.
Well, I think maybe we should do that instead, because maybe that would be better, having it written. And then when someone's not doing their job, you go, look, you actually signed this, and you said that you were going to uphold. So I feel like that would make more sense. And then in response to what Anna said, do you really think that them like saying that they're going to like swear is going to make those people who aren't here now be here? I don't think that, like, I don't agree with that.
Again, I don't think this is about, a lot of people are thinking, well, I do these things, and like I would take this, like, or people aren't going to take this so seriously, but everyone in this room is doing what they're supposed to right now, and everyone else outside the room, I'm sure, is doing what they're supposed to as well, but in order to make sure that there's written rules that back us up when someone does something wrong, we have to have a backing. We can't just go through and say, you're doing something wrong, we're impeaching you, or we're submitting you, then the judicial panel gets rid of you and you're out. We have to have backing. Otherwise, it's
And in order for the judicial panel to do anything, like it's kind of got to we'll just kind of over the judicial panel. We need to have stuff in writing, and it needs to be very clear cut out. We can't do much of anything.
Yeah, I think this is also kind of in the overall round of proportion. As long as we all do our jobs well efficiently, this shouldn't be a problem. We should sign the contract, do the job, and that's the end.
To answer your question, no, I don't think it'll magically make people think it's wrong. But I think it gives them the power to remove people who aren't doing their job, which would make me very happy.
I guess my question, this is a suggestion question, and I would love to have an answer. To me, a conversation is something that is like external to like our constituents and to the student body, and the rules and procedures are internal, like regulations and stuff like that. And so I guess my question is like, why are we putting these standards in something that's supposed to be like representing us? Obviously, we want to represent as well, but like, why change the procedures? I guess is my question. Why put there?
So for the constitutional to be external, I would argue that an oath is an external promise. So this is almost a promise to the student body that these commissioners will work as they're supposed to. Right now, we don't have the ability to fire, should we say, anybody that isn't holding up this promise to the students. And so we have people that sit on the body and then continuously do not do enough work for the students that they promise. And so this oath actually gives us the backing. It's their promise to the students that they're actually going to do something, and then we have some follow through on that.
I would completely agree with you, Senator Sloat, that the RMP is an internal document, and that's why I think it's so important that it goes in the external document of the Constitution, because our duties and what we say we're going to do is not just a promise to this body, but it's a promise to the entire student body, which is why it's going in the external document of the Constitution.
Schneider.
This is not on behalf of Commissioner Romlo. I do understand why people want this constitutional amendment. I also understand why people don't want this constitutional amendment. I feel as though that a middle ground compromise would be to, I guess, link the rules and procedures within the Constitution, saying that anyone who fails to uphold the rules and procedures will be dealt with by the judicial panel, as well as up to the discretion of the executive branch, because that would bring the balance of not having a very long Constitution, but clearly stating that the rules and procedures will be upheld, and to update the rules and procedures with this and further. But like Romlo definitely supports this resolution, so I will be voting in support of this. But my personal belief is that we should try to consolidate it while also making it more effective.
So I see what you're saying. I understand it, but also the difference, one of the main differences, at least in changes of the Constitution, there was R&D, and R&D is 2/3 of internal Senate. Constitution is us, then, or judicial panel, then us, then alumni, then student body, and then board of trustees. And so if you link them, anything that is in the R&D or Constitution would have to go to that entire process of change. There's your thoughts right there.
I already have.
Okay, I guess like last little tidbit is that I think it's just being like way blown out of proportion, as Pam was saying. I hear like I think our number one complaint that we always talk about is that a lot of like people outside the Senate don't really know what's going on. It's like this is the Constitution, and gives everyone else a good idea of the standards that we should be held to.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. Aye. Hands up high. Oh, you only have one vote. That's for future reference. You can't talk to yourself.
Wait, so we count
Okay.
Senator?
No, I haven't. Yeah, I'll talk to you later.
Do we count that?
No, I didn't count that in 2/3. We'll talk later. 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's 32. But wait, if Walter's pro temp, do I get my vote back?
Yeah. All those opposed?
Division. I'm calling it.
Why? Already. Fine. Okay, great. I don't
Because we
know.
counted 34 and it would need 36 to pass.
Very close,
At
sorry, call
least.
division.
Stand up if you are. All those in favor, please rise. All right. We got 34. I'm not. I got 34.
No, John, you are coming today. I myself.
So she didn't tell me anything, so I can't vote. Yeah, we got
Evil, you're saying evil. Okay. Real quick, just, can you do a form call?
Okay, as the presiding officer, we're taking quorum again because people have left and we need to know if anything we're doing is legal. Okay. President, if you, hey, people, thank you. If you hold a vote or you are proxying for someone who holds a vote, please stand up so that we can count you.
If not, sit down.
Yes.
I'm sure.
So now, please stay standing if you are in favor of this resolution. passes with a 2/3 majority. Senate Resolution 1718-141, resolution to create a Bill of Rights section. Whereas, thank you. Discussion. Sorry, primary sponsors. I don't have a list of them. Senator Rises. Commissioner Clear.
Yeah, so this is, if you're talking about external constitution, this is the most external part of the whole document that we've written. We wanted to make a Bill of Rights section so students understand what they can and can't do in relation to administrators or just anything on campus. I think that this is an amazing part of the Constitution, and every student that I've talked to that I've told that we're rewriting and talked about the Bill of Rights are actually really excited about this. I do have one friendly amendment. In 1.10, it currently reads the right of protection from the placement of university financial obligations on a student's university account at the express consent of the student. Upon consultation with Vice President Meredith Ball, she kind of brought it up like, well, if this is in the Constitution, then any student can be like, but I got a parking ticket and I didn't want that in there. So I friendly amend to add wrongful university financial obligations on the student's university account. So if there is anything kind of inappropriate or uncalled for on their account, then they can petition to get it off. But if it's like a parking ticket or printing fees or something, they can't.
Okay. Sorry. Commissioner Rambo.
Ditto clear. Another quote. As part of the new I can't speak. As part of the new Constitution is what I'm most excited about because the student body will have a document to reference what they have rights for. I spend the balance of my time.
Treasurer Woods.
Reserve the balance of my time.
Vice President Schneider.
Reserve the balance of my time.
President Lama.
I think this is great. This speaks for all students, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Okay, now a discussion.
Chief of Staff Schlosser. I think this is an excellent addition to the Constitution. I love this. I really urge everybody to vote yes.
What is your last name?
Smith.
Senator? Senator Smith.
So I like this one a lot, especially, I think one of the most interesting things is that if we pass this, then the Board of Trustees has to approve or reject it, which puts them in an interesting position in terms of like what they're willing to recognize the students' rights as being, which could be good or bad. I think it's really important. I like it.
Move to vote with friendly amendment.
All those in favor of moving to vote with a friendly amendment, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? Okay, we are moving to vote with friendly amendment. All those in favor of passing this bill, this resolution, it's not a bill, this resolution with friendly amendment. All those opposed? Abstentions? It passes. And the last constitutional thing, Senate Resolution 1718-142, a resolution to create an operations section.
I move to table indefinitely due to the resolution was amended because it moved operations to composition into one.
All those in favor of tabling this resolution indefinitely? All those opposed? Abstentions?
Yes, please.
Oh, it's tabled. Okay, I'm returning the power to preside this meeting to Vice President Schneider.
All right, we're back on schedule, everyone. Thank you for that lively debate. Moving on to new business. Senate Resolution 1718-145, a resolution to purchase donuts for International Women's Day. Whereas the Ohio University is the primary sponsor and heirs.
Alright, so this is the This is a great quote. It's a local bakery. Perfect. That was Tim Hortons. Happy's. So, upon reviewing the budget application, the committee reports that it has met all criteria outlined for approval, and I back the balance of my time.
Okay. Secondary sponsor, vice chairperson, as well.
I agree with everything you said, and I'd like to do with my time.
Yeah, so we're tabling tomorrow, 10 to 3, outside Baker. And they have a little awesome poster that is informational and educational. So it's not just food and a selfie poster, a little picture frame thing. It's also educational, so we'll have a little poster and you can come eat a donut, have some hot chocolate, learn about some really, really cool women who have done some really cool things around the world. And I urge you to go to
Is there any debate? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? And the resolution passes. Resolution 1718-146, a resolution to fund Senate networking trip. Primary sponsor, Chairperson Ayers.
Alrighty, so this is the Senate DC networking trip. It's going to happen in a couple days. There are 8 people signed up to go. So this budget would buy 2 hotel rooms for those 8 people, gas, transportation service, which is provided by OEU. They got an SUV. Seemed like a great quote to me. I kind of did some price searching, and it's definitely the best option. The numbers you see up there for gas, the hotel quote, were all researched and like the national averages used for gas and that kind of thing. The hotel quote was competitive with the time, number of guests, and location. Parking rate is from the hotel. The food costs end up being about $31 per person, which seems pretty reasonable for a multi-day trip. The extra line item about cushion, it's a little more than $100, I think. Can't remember that, but 102, thank you, and 30 cents. Is, as Zach explained it to me, is for just if something happens, sort of incidental. So I'm going to yield the remaining amount of my time to Zach to elaborate on that. However, I do first have to say, if I'm doing the budget application, the committee reports that there's not all criteria outlined for approval, and I yield to that.
So we're really excited about this. We have a call today with Greg Moore and Mark Deaton. We are meeting with Sherry Brown's office, Rob Corbin's office, Steve Cyber's office. We have a ton of stuff set up with the alumni. It's a really great trip, and I worked very, very hard to find the cheapest possible price for everything. And that cushion for incidental is just with a trip like this, for gas, for hotels, if something happens, if the car breaks down, if you just want to make sure that you're safe and sound. I used a little calculator and just made sure that we had a little bit of a cushion, and then we'll use the rest of my discretionary if there's anything more than that. But I just wanted to make sure that we were covered if something happened. And if you have any questions, please stop me during the debate, and I'd be happy to answer them. Those are the dogs of my time.
Secondary sponsor, Vice Chairperson Hipwell. Okay, is there any?
Super, I forgot to mention this.
Go ahead.
We did get a $1,000 donation from the Alumni Society. That's pretty cool, and I'm sure that Zach is 100% involved with that. So, that's impressive. To get somebody to give you $1,000, it's not easy. So, good job.
Debate? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? And abstentions. passes, sorry. Okay. Resolution 1718-147, a resolution to purchase space in Baker Theater for Black Affairs Commission event. Whereas, all right, primary sponsor, Chairperson Ayers. Do you want this one? It's just Baker Theater.
Yes, this is,
Do you want the printout?
yeah, I can't read that.
Yeah, see, she has glasses.
So this is just rental fee for Baker Theater. I'm gonna, after I leave my thing, you'll see Commissioner Evans, we're gonna talk about the event. $50 fee that the university makes me us pay, and as I previously mentioned, I think it's ridiculous, and I know why they charge it, and I don't like it. Doesn't really matter, but I like to get on my high horse sometimes. Reviewing the budget application, the committee reports that it met all criteria outlined for approval, and I yield to Commissioner.
I actually don't know what the event is for, so I yield to Senator Young.
Yeah, I was approached by Capital Supply Attorney, and they're recommending, they want to hold an event in Baker, in March 24th, or sometime in late March. Yeah, they want to bring out the event. Maybe like a competition. That can happen.
Do I still have, is it still my time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Still has-
I was very confused by this, I'm
You have
sorry.
20 seconds.
So this is for act like a nude, which I don't know if that's how you say that or not, but, so it's a dance competition where, groups, female students work with, people in Kappa Alpha Psi, make signature dances, and then they raise money, and the proceeds go to St. Jude's, Children's Hospital, which is a great, organization. I'm sorry about the mix-up. My own budget title confused me, which is brought in mix-up. I yield the remainder of my time.
All right, secondary sponsor, Vice Chairperson Hickwell. All right, is there any debate?
I literally have one question. Hospitality event, are you promoting the Senate in any way? Like, are you putting our like little seal on the banners, or are we just like basically?
I thought we like put like a little thing on like the flyer.
Okay, yeah, I was just gonna say like, just make sure that like Senate is obviously as much as it is their own event, but like, you know, important. So just make sure the Senate is represented and that it is part of like, comes out. Just like, yeah.
Commissioner Evans, is it a direct response?
Well, no.
Okay, then you can go ahead.
Now that I know what the event is for, I just meant for, it's like, it's the fact that it's in the same with Beyond, it's like a good event, as you said, it's already to go to St. Jude, so it's not like some random party that is anything here, it's a competitive thing, it's like kind of social, but also has a good, you know, outcome in the end, so it's something that we can try to learn.
Vice Commissioner Keller?
Just a point of clarification, is this the Baker Theater in Cantor Hall or the theater in Baker Center? And what was the date on this again? Okay, that theater is occupied on the 24th for a show from the Washington Theater.
They're pretty flexible.
Yeah, definitely. I was just saying for that specific day. I thought it sounded familiar, so I was just double checking.
Then I have a question. If the date's not finalized, should we be passing our budget this way? Like, I want this to pass, but if you guys don't have a set date and now, like, if your event's supposed to be on the 24th, like, you need a date, should we approve this and vote on it?
Yeah, Treasurer Wood, are you directly responding?
Yes. Because it is right before spring break, and I just think people want to know that they have funds for things that will be happening until the date is set, and so this is the first thing we need is the room. So if they have the room, the event's happening, so I don't see any problem. If it doesn't happen, then the money won't be due, so I don't see any problem with approving it. Reserve the option.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, and the resolution passes. Oh. All right, I'm gonna make. All right, then John. Okay, Senate Resolution 1718-148, a resolution to appoint a senator to the Off-Campus Life Commission. Whereas, all right, primary sponsor, Commissioner Green.
This is Grant. First of all, I'd like to apologize to those on the story for the I'm sorry. But yeah, he's really great. He's really excited to get started doing some work, and this actually gives me a full commission for the first time this year. So, but yeah, he's really great. So we should pass it.
Secondary sponsor, myself. Welcome. This, I don't agree with Joe. This is usually what it's like. Sorry, no, I'm just kidding. I'm not usually president, so it goes a little bit smoother. But still, I encourage everyone to pass it because that would be so great to have a full commission. I reserve the option for that. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? One. Okay, thanks. Abstentions?
So, I was really for it.
Abstention? One. Okay, and it passes. All right, John, here you go.
All right. Senate Resolution 1718-149, a resolution to appoint a member, or appoint a commissioner to the Academic Affairs Commission. Whereas, then the reading. Primary sponsor, Vice President Schneider.
All right, so many people might know Alex. There he is. So he's been serving as acting commissioner for a couple months now. So I think it would be great to have him as actual commissioner of academic affairs. I encourage you all to pass this. Or is it done? Okay.
There's a secondary sponsor, so is there any debate?
No.
All those in favor? Opposed? One is opposed. Abstentions? One abstention. The motion passes.
All right, moving forward.
Abstentions. Excuse me.
Okay, are there any commissioner reports or commission reports? Okay, seeing none. Any Senate committee reports? Seeing none. Any executive, university committee reports, sorry.
So scholarship board appointed a chief post.
Woo!
Lauren Fisher. She gave a really great presentation. Hannah and I were blown away. She gave a shout out to Senate, and so we're excited for her to cover us next year.
They got the investigative journalism, like that's something that she really wants to bring the book back to.
Good. Got it. Yeah?
So I sit on Student Support Services Committee with Landon, and last time we did DNI. We're currently in the process of finalizing that report, but we are just beginning to evaluate athletics as well. So look for a Qualtrics survey to evaluate the athletic department and how you use them after spring break, because we'll have a pretty quick turnaround, so we need as many responses as possible.
Chairperson Ayers?
Yeah, I missed the previous thing, but I do have a,
Sorry.
I just want to clarify this because I felt like that was a mess and I didn't do my job well. The Act Like a Group event is March 29th at 7:10 p.m. So there isn't a conflict with the theater, and it is in Baker Center. Sorry.
Okay, are there any other reports? Senator Miller.
Hi everyone, I sit on the University Professor Awards Committee. We got done interviewing all of our candidates and we voted 2 weeks ago. It should be announced soon. Just if you're not familiar with the awards, the highest honor that our tenure track professors receive, and they get to teach specialized class, so look forward to that.
Okay. Yep, sure.
If anybody in the room is graduating or knows somebody who was in Senate, who was in Senate and is graduating, please have them apply for Senator Emeritus and Senior Honors. Applications close March 18th. Check it out on the Slack and on our website. It is open to anybody who has served on our body previously, and they are graduates, but they're not on the body now. That makes sense.
Any other university committee reports? All right, executive staff reports? None? Okay. President report? None. Vice President's report? IG? Okay, so we did select our 5 student trustee finalists, and they will be going to Columbus on Friday, so that's exciting. We clap for this. That seems a little dictatorish.
Who's going?
Who's going? Great question. Sorry, I did not write down all their first and last names, but it's Alvin Cheney, Mackenzie Rader, Sam Conrad Sweeney, Austin McLean. Thank you, Ross Estorma. Thank you. So those will be the 5 that will be going Friday, and then we'll hear back how those went very soon. Next is, just like an order of business for Senate. If you all have any ideas that you want us to continue to work on this year, it would be great if you could let the execs know, your commissioners know, so we can work on those. I know that there have been some things that the day of, people are like, oh, we should be doing this, and that's so exciting, but we need to make sure that we're talking about those ideas ahead of time. I reserve the balance of your time. Treasurer's report.
Hey, real quick before the numbers, thank you for passing a decent budget tonight. We've Zach Weeks, Landon, Nicole, John, and I, and I'm sorry if I left anyone out, worked really hard on getting this pulled together in 2.5 weeks. The alumni are really excited about it. We have a lot of great events planned. We're going to get hashtags going, so it's going to be really fun. So thank you for passing that tonight. Have fun on spring break next week. Please, everyone, be safe. So I want to know everyone. All right, the numbers. So Senate total, we have $21,873.29. Allocated but not yet spent is $6,297.41. Not allocated nor spent is $15,575.80. SAC total, we have $26,771.40. In spot, we have $9,154.02. And in new fund, we have $17,670.33. And those numbers are true and accurate. Yeah, I don't have any.
Zach chose the next time, Zach's going to really wish. I have something there.
I have no regret.
All of them.
Oh my God.
All right. So, sorry. What? Well, I had a workout. Come on. No, this is August right here. Anyways, we have just a couple points before we adjourn. Lead Campus is a leadership retreat that the CIC and master's students in the College Student Personnel Program are hosting. That will be hosted
April 15th. It's Sunday from 8 a.m. till 3:30. Lunch food is provided. It's over in the LLC. You can register on OrgSync. This retreat is based or geared towards student organizations and members of student organizations that want to grow, improve, and really alter and make better what it is they are a part of. So if you're interested in doing that for either Senate or your own student organization outside the Senate, I definitely suggest that. The Presidential Leadership Society application could close on March 9th at 11:59. It's a really, Amal, right here, she's an example. It's a great way to not only represent the university, but also to represent the groups that you're a part of and how those groups have leaders, because they travel with the president, they work with alumni, they are the face of OU essentially. So please, if you can, apply by March 9th at 11:59. And if you have new members, sorry, this is not for this group. Go Bobcats.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? All those opposed? Abstentions? All right.
Hell yeah. Running away forever.
I was just looking at the map.
All right.